Hi everyone, Journal 87 today. In Journal 59, so like almost 30 journals ago, I talked about the Facebook cartel. Let me bring that up again today. I'm going to return to that subject, but I'm also going to talk about nostalgia, which is not foreign to this, like to my journal series. Right? From 17 to 22, every one of those I was talking about nostalgia. That was like my deep dive into the subject. But today I'm going to be talking about the economy of sentimentality. So it's a little bit different. And I had this like recent experience that inspired me to write it. So I was watching this Singles. If you don't know what this is, if you are like my age, you know what it is, but maybe like you're younger or older or something. It's just like a perfect snapshot. It's a movie, right? But it's like this perfect picture of like a particular culture, like grunge, so music grunge, in like a particular place, like Seattle, where grunge was mostly, born and lived its life, and at like a particular time, right, the 90s, sort of grunge died at some point. It was born and it died, and I was born in 1980, so my coming of age was sort of looking up to this generation, the grunge generation, and I loved all those bands. I just wasn't quite as old as them, but that's who I admired, and so my brother lived in Seattle for a while. I would go visit him, so it's just such a sentimental time. Like maybe every 5 years, something like that, I'll put it on, and I will just re-indulge those emotions. Right? I'll be transported to that time and place, and sort of live among that culture again. But recently I did it, and at like the peak of my the emotional connection, I had this epiphany that like maybe this is just like a pathetic version of what my grandpa did. My grandpa was a World War II soldier, and he had this VHS series, this documentary series about World War II, and if he's watching it, he would have an emotional connection that others in the room would not. He's revisiting Okinawa with his brothers in arms and having this real powerful experience in his mind that other people are just like, I don't know, it's just like informative to me. And so as soon as I realized maybe it's just like a pathetic version of what my grandpa would do, the feeling dissolved, like it went away, and I wish it stayed. I wish I didn't have that epiphany. But then I had this additional thought, and so I stopped the movie and wrote a journal about it, which was there's an entire economy that tries to capitalize on that tries to use people's nostalgia as like a way to make a dollar in a kind of ugly way. And so I have my qualms about this, and that's what today's journal is about. And I'm not saying Singles or the documentary are that, right? The documentary is educational, and Singles was that. That came out during the era. Nobody was nostalgic about something in its birth and early years. It's nostalgic now, but then it wasn't. And then also there's people who make money on nostalgia that I think are completely, they're completely agreeable, maybe like Retrobird, somebody like that. If the whole world were populated by Retrobirds, we would live in such a happy universe. Bananas would be the number one, comestible, sale item, whatever. There's a lot of people I'm not talking about. There's businesses I'm not talking about. Media I'm not talking about. But I am talking about other stuff. And that stuff is what this is about. Journal 87. Saturday, September 28th, 2024. Art, Connection, and Desperation. Hi, everyone. Ranking algorithms are a means for addiction. That's how TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, and every other cartel gets users hooked on their product. It's good for business, but it's not good for art, because the street dealers, content creators, operate according to incentive structures, algorithms. And if it weren't for those dealers, the producers, investors, and suppliers, programmers, wouldn't make any money. In recent years, we've learned the most valuable commodity traded on the internet is attention, and subtlety seldom makes the sale. So the dealers push their product with clickbait names and promises that you'll feel good if you watch their latest reaction video. I guess people are just desperate to feel validated. When I was younger, people sought validation through human connection. Often in unhealthy ways, failing to find real fulfillment, they'd settle for a temporary substitute, regrettable sexual encounters, which would briefly plug the leaking hole in their self-esteem. And I suppose some people, the really desperate ones, would call 1-900 numbers and pay by the minute to have a telehooker fake sexual interest. But no matter how steep the bill, I can't imagine any caller ever hung up feeling fulfilled because it wasn't real. And today, there's an entire class of drug with thousands of dealers that aims to hijack people's nostalgia. Content creators post videos of themselves listening to old songs for the first time and reacting to them, which means pretending to be blown away. It's basically pornography for sentimentalists, except there's no 1-900 price tag. The operators, members of a younger generation, mostly college students trying to pay for tuition, videotape themselves experiencing Billy Joel for the first time, or Bon Jovi, or Elvis Costello, and they carefully counterfeit all the signs of emotional climax. These are just as authentic as the telehookers, and deep down, I think everyone must know that, but we're desperate to feel validated, desperate for our emotions to be understood. Fleecing the nostalgic is a big business, but the fleece won't keep us warm. It's just the emperor's latest attire. What we really want is honesty and understanding expressed in an original way. Somewhere in there is a definition of art. But that's not a commodity that can be trafficked by common street dealers. So it's not a part of the algorithm. All right, that's it for this one. I'm realizing, there goes Bones, I hate that cat. So I'm realizing this one is like the algorithm. I guess as I'm reading this, I'm thinking about the algorithm. I'm going to get no views. I mean, I'm talking about drugs and hookers, and so there's going to be no views on the. If you look at the list of videos, I'm guessing this one isn't going to have a very wide circulation, but it doesn't matter. But one last thought, though, is there's a subset of like nostalgia profiteering, which is like Disneyland for adults. I haven't talked about that. And I'm okay with that. Like, I haven't been to Disneyland since I was a little tiny kid, but I'm okay with adults in Disneyland. I don't think that, I think that's like emotionally, it's at least honest, healthy, probably, honest, definitely. I mean, like these people, they can pay a lot of money, knowing what the experience is going to be. They're not being tricked into anything. They're wearing the big, like, Mickey Mouse ears, and they know they're going to spend 90% of the time in long lines on like hot concrete. So I don't think there's anything deceptive there. I don't think there's any sort of trickery. I just think it's getting, like, compare that to like a lonely laptop voyeur. Like the 40-year-old watching the college student like react to like Dave Matthews or whatever for the first time. Like that I think is unhealthy and dishonest, and that's what I'm talking about. It's just harder and harder and harder every year to find like a real human connection, to find honesty. And maybe not my singular goal, but my main goal, my principal goal in my novel is human connection in an honest way. And maybe it's not going to be like a giant, like commercial commodity or something, but that I don't care, right? That's what I want is an honest product, and I think I've accomplished it. I'm going to at least keep trying to do that. My book, I think, does serve that purpose. So now I'm just rambling, so I'm going to end there. I hope you find real honesty and human connection, whether it's at Disneyland or in Seattle, like reliving the grunge days. And I hope whatever, like, simpler times, better, simpler times are now. I hope the simpler, best days are now that you're experiencing. So, all right, that's a lot of rambling, but I'll see you next time.